Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about jars and lids. Again, I've mentioned it before. Jars can be expensive. The lids and rings, I have picked up most of my jars from, I go to farm sales and or at secondhand stores. So just kind of keep your eyes open for things like that. If you buy a case of jars, and they usually come in a case of 12. They will come with the jar, a ring, and a metal lid for each jar. We'll talk about the lids in a bit. Jars come in, well, let me think, quart, pint, half pint, and these cute little jelly jars. So these are a quart jar, pint jar. This is one of my pint jars with, these are both pint jars. One's a wide mouth, one's a regular. I'll talk about that in a minute. Half pint jars. And these little, cute little, they usually for jelly. I rarely mess with these for jelly. I use, the ones I have I keep like my spices and stuff in, but occasionally I have canned in them. Now, one thing that I really want to stress when it comes to jars is it's very important that you use the ball or mason jars. Don't reuse old mayonnaise jars, old peanut butter jars. Those are not safe for home canning. That being said, yes, I've done it. Yes, our grandmas did it. I think that they were better made back then, the mayonnaise jars. I use my mayonnaise jars and pickle jars and stuff like that. I use that for fermenting and to store my vacuum sealed products in. And I have a lot of vacuum sealed stuff in my pantry upstairs. One other thing that I want to share with you is novelty jars. I'm not sure, I think this might have had peanuts in it. It's a cute jar, isn't it? It says Mason. And look at this jar. I don't remember what was in it, but of course, me being me, I cleaned these up and I was going to use them for canning because these are really heavy duty jars. However, I looked at the bottom and neither of them said ball or mason or cur. So I was hesitant, and it's a good thing that I double checked, because even though the mouth of the jar looks like a regular mouth jar, they're not. I went to put a regular lid on and they don't fit. So I would not have gotten a good seal, and I would have wasted not only the product but my time, and when it comes to canning, you don't want to do that. So jars and lids come in two sizes. This is a wide mouth lid, and this is a regular mouth, a wide mouth jar and a regular mouth jar. All sizes come in both regular or wide mouth, whatever your preference. Most people use the wide mouth jars for meats. These are the two size lids of the lids that come in. These are the metal ones. Ball and cur are the most popular sizes. These cost between $3 and $4 for a package of 12. So you can see how that adds up quickly, as they're considered one-time use. You're to throw them away. Many people still use these over and over. I used to, but they've changed the lids. They've changed the rubber seal. They're going to try and tell you they haven't, but if I can find it, there's a video of a gal. You know, most of us have been canning for a long time. We've had more failed seals with the changes that they've made, and she was actually able to find at a garage sale some of the old original rings, and she could show up close the difference. This rubber in here is not near as thick as it used to be, and the seals aren't lasting as long, and I really think that that's why now they recommend that they're only good for 18 months. And actually, they're kind of excited on one of them, now made to last, now helps keep canned food sealed now up to 18 months. Before, guys, when the rubber on here, they would last for several years, no problems. And these still will too, but I think they know themselves that the seal's not as good. Also, we have a little discount store in our community, nationwide, and they have their own brand. They only sell regular, and they're $2.50 a box. But let me tell you, I don't recommend you use those. I have a lot of failed seals, so it's better to go ahead and get the name brand. Because of the cost and the fact that they're one-time use, that is why I've chose to go with Tattler lids. Tattler lids cost about 3 times as much as the metal lids up front, but Tattler lids you can use indefinitely. You order Tattler lids, it comes in 2 pieces. You've got the lid and the rubber gasket. And it goes down like this, and then onto your jar. And in a minute, I'll go over how you seal both of these. I just want to show this to you. It might give you an idea what I'm talking about at the rubber rings and stuff. Now, I don't think Tattler has changed. Maybe it has. But I want you to see, this is an old, I have a collection of antique jars. And I can in antique jars too, but not these. This is the old rubber gasket that you used to use with these. And I'm not going to take it off because I don't want to break my lid. But it opens up this way, the lid slides off, and then the gasket goes between the lid and the jar, and it seals that way. But this is almost how the difference in that video that lady had. I'm hoping I can find it. But see the difference in the thickness? When jars had a good thick rubber ring around there, you could use those over. You weren't supposed to. Everybody did because you had good quality and your seals were much better. I'm going to show you right quick. The old farmer took some heavy-duty wire hangers, and he made, people make wreaths out of this. And this is how I store my rings. Typically, this is full. I just haven't put my rings back on this, but then I hang them in the closet, and they're out of the way and easy to get to. And he just cut it and looped it. I just hook it and then I hang it up, and I've got all that. And my regular lit rings, I've got actually 2 of these full of those. Okay, to use the metal lid, when there was a heavier rubber seal around here, you would simmer your lids and not only sterilize them, but it softened that rubber. Now they say you don't even have to get them hot. It's in my head, so I put them in hot water, but I don't simmer them anymore. But that's where the jar lifter would come in handy, is you could pick up the lid with the jar lifter out of the hot water. You place it on top of the jar and put your ring on. Of course, I'm not going to get, there we go. And then you just tighten it finger tight. Don't take one of those jar wrenches. I don't even know why they sell those, because they're sold in the canning. No. But just finger tight, and then put it into your canner. And then when you bring it out, use your jar lifter, bring it out, and let it set. And that's when you hear a canner's favorite sound. Ping, ping, ping. When the lids ping, you hear that ping, you know that you've got a good seal. And you may not always hear the ping, but you hear that. That's how you can tell if you've got a good seal. And I will come down, I'm in my pantry, but I'll come down to my pantry every now and then and I'll check my lids. And the way that I check them, I just tap the top and I can tell if I have a seal, and that's what it sounds like. So you either use that product, if it doesn't seal, you use the product, put it in the refrigerator, use it right away, or you can recan it. The reason, after you've put your product in, take a cloth, clean the rim of the jar, get it good and clean. At the same time, check and make sure there's no cracks or chips. If there's a crack or a chip, throw it away. It's not going to seal. And if your product doesn't can the first time, you take that off. You're going to have to rewash the lid, do that, and then it should seal. The Tattler lids, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, but these will cost about 3 times up front, but they're good forever. The only thing that you may have to change is this rubber gasket if it starts getting dry and cracked. And honestly, I've used mine so many times, I've never had to replace it because the gasket goes bad. I've lost them. But you put this, you've got to get in really hot water because you want to soften up that rubber. You don't need to simmer them, they just need to be in really hot water. You put the lid on, you put the ring on and the lid on, and then you get your jar ring. Here's the way I used to do it, is I would bring it down and get it finger tight, not wrench it, just get it finger tight, and then I would back off about 1/4 and see how loose it is. Well, when I ordered this, I recently ordered 200 Tattler lids, 100 of each size, and instructions came with it. And what they say to do now, or on those instructions, is to lightly put the lid on, and once the jar begins to move, that's tight enough. And it's going to be very loose, just like when I was backing off. You put them in your canner. Then when you take them out, I always would go ahead and tighten it finger tight. That's the difference. A metal lid, you bring it out and you leave it because you've already done it finger tight. These you tighten after they come out of the canner because it needs to be able to vent. And the lid will go up and down a little bit, letting the pressure build. The instructions say to let them continue to vent outside of the canner for approximately 5 minutes and then tighten them down. Yesterday when I did my canning in Cinnamon Girl, I did one rack that way. I let it vent. And the second rack, I took them out immediately. And I had all good seals. So whatever works for you. How to tell if your Tattler lid sealed. The next morning, after these have cooled, they need to see it at least 12 hours. Both, anytime you can. You bring out the jar. It has to sit at least 12 hours. Let it cool down naturally. That's part of the sealing process. You take your rings off, wash your jars. And if you can pick up the Tattler lid, the jar by the lid, you have a seal. And also, I have to really look, but I'm learning. You can see a slight indentation on the Tattler lids. Okay, people have asked me, how do you open up a jar of the canned product? I have a jar here with a metal lid, and I've got one with a Tattler. A lot of people are able to do it with just a butter knife. Now, number one, you don't use a sharp knife, especially with a Tattler. You don't want to cut that rubber seal, that rubber. Now, then there's a little ridge here. You put your knife underneath and pop it up. I can't do that. This is beef broth. If I did that, I've had beef broth all over the kitchen, all over me. I'm just not coordinated enough to pop that off. I've done it before and I've made a mess. I just use your standard church key. I don't know why they call it church key. Anybody know? I don't even know if they make them. But for those that don't know, like pop cans, beer cans, used to have a flat bottom, and you popped open a hole on each side. And I think there's still, like, maybe evaporated milk does that. And then, but I used the blunt end and just put it underneath that little ridge and pop it off. To remove a lid off the Tattler, you see you've got the jar, and there's your rubber ring, and then the lid. If you do a butter knife, you put it between the rubber ring and the lid and pry it off. Again, big mess at my house. So, it's the church key. Just pop it open. Now on those metal lids, I do reuse those if I haven't bent this when I've opened it, or if I don't have it all messed up on the top, for my vacuum seal foods. And it's okay to use metal lids over and over and over again for vacuum sealing. And I used those for that. Okay, I hope this didn't go too long, but that's about jars and lids. And the oh, I did want to discuss I'd quickly like to go over the pros and cons between the two lids. The metal lids, one-time use only. Tattler lids can be used indefinitely. For gifting reasons, you probably want to use this because then you don't have to worry about them trying to get your Tattler lid back to you. And my family knows that if I give them something, I expect my jar back too, so I can refill it. Tattler lids are about 3 to 4 times more expensive up front. If you buy in bulk, and the more that you buy, they're a little bit cheaper. These cost I don't know, I think it's $3 to $4 for a box of 12. That adds up in a hurry. There's 2 pieces involved in a Tattler lid that you have to keep track of, whereas there's only the 1 piece in a metal lid. Anyway, I have chose, after years and years of canning and buying, probably by now $1,000 worth of metal lids, I've decided I'm going to go with Tattler, because hopefully these will be the last lids that I buy unless I choose to gift a lot of my food. And I know the lid's not coming back. So, anyway, this is on, in my opinion, on the lids and jars. Again, I'm not a professional. This is just how I do things, and do your research. Alright guys, my next video is going to be on storing your canned foods and how we travel with them.